We're here to discuss adult detention and why the social institution is disadvantaged and marginalised in today's society. So who fits into this social institution? It is men and women aged 18 years and older who have been convicted of a criminal offence, being sentenced to time in prison. The prison population is predominantly male and relatively young, with an average age of 32. During the 2016 to 2017 financial year, the number of incarcerated Australians increased by 6%, with numbers increasing from 38,845 prisoners to 41,202 prisoners. These numbers are still increasing today, with many prisons at or over capacity. So why are these numbers increasing? It could possibly be due to the cost of living that is increasing, causing more Australians to come below the positive threshold. This is forcing Australians to find other sources of income, which could also push them to engage into criminal activities as another means to survive daily life. Stigma. This social institution is greatly stigmatised. Some of these stigmas that label this group could be things such as scums of society, no good people, dangerous, thieves, lazy, uneducated. Why is this social institution disadvantaged and marginalised? Well, this would have to do with the social indicators. So what are the social indicators? A social indicator is just statistical information that describes a particular person or a group's social well-being. They're things that will contribute to the disadvantagement and the marginalisation of this social institution. These things include history of imprisonment, low socioeconomic backgrounds, low levels of education, intergenerational issues of drug and alcohol abuse, and history of domestic and family violence. So, history of imprisonment. A study was conducted back in 2015 by the sex of the prisoner. These statistics of this research determined that men were more likely than women to have a previous history of imprisonment, with approximately 25 to 30% of males serving time during 2015 had spent 5+ sentences in prison. Almost this whole percentage of men have been served at least one sentence as a juvenile. 50% of the female prisoners had never been in prison prior to this study, and 80% of these female prisoners had never served as a juvenile. Low socioeconomic backgrounds. Various amounts of these men and women come from low socioeconomic backgrounds, living majority, if not all of their lives in poverty. Living in such conditions can lead to crimes such as stealing to make ends meet. Education. Indigenous prisoners showed significantly lower levels of education than that of the general prison population. 20% of the Indigenous prisoners entering prison had completed Year 11 or 12 compared to the 31% of the non-Indigenous population. 10% of the Indigenous prisoners entering into prison had completed a Year 8 or below compared to the 14% of the non-Indigenous population. On a whole, the general population of Australia between the ages of 25 to 44 there were 70% who had completed a tertiary qualification, compared to that of the Indigenous prisoners. They were 11% less likely than the general population to have completed a tertiary qualification. However, the non-Indigenous prisoners population were more likely, with a 28% to have completed a tertiary qualification. Poor education contributes to high unemployment rates. Difficulties faced in life can contribute to unemployment. Things such as poor education, being of a lower socioeconomic status, high levels of drug and alcohol abuse, higher levels of mental health. Another thing that can affect a person's employment rate is poor work history. Being in prison often makes it harder to find stable employment, especially for the prisoners who have been in prison for more than 6 months. Indigenous Australians were more likely to be unemployed than the non-Indigenous population on a whole. Housing. Within this social institution, there's significant numbers of homelessness. Being in prison plays a massive part in obtaining stable accommodation. Other factors such as the unemployment history, low education, can also play a part in the housing situation for this social institution. Homelessness can lead to re-imprisonment. Health. The health in the prison system is significantly poorer than that of the general population. The health services that are provided within the prisons are the responsibility of the state and territory governments only. So there's a lack of resources there. Medicare is a service funded by the Australian government, which do not apply to the state and territory government run services such as the prison healthcare system, which makes it harder for prisoners to get the healthcare needed. They're also excluded from the PBS, the Pharmaceutical Benefit Scheme, as this is also provided by the Australian government. For them to receive such services, the prisoners would have to be taken to a government hospital. Smoking is a significant health issue within the prison system, with 75% of prisoners that enter the prisons, they come in as smokers. Another health issue is the mental health of the prisoner. Without such services as Medicare and the PBS, it is hard for prisoners to get the relevant care, to get the relevant medication, to maintain a healthy mental health. A lot of the inmates come in with substantial amounts of alcohol, illicit drugs, and tobacco consumption. This contributes to poor health within the system. Such things as the use of intravenous drugs and unprotected sex is causing bloodborne viruses such as Hep C and HIV within the prison systems, and without the adequate resources, they can't provide the needed care for the inmates, which means they have a significantly poorer health status than that of the general population.